All right, hey guys, I'm Andrew, and
Hi, I'm Jason Parker.
first of all, I'm the Director of Software Engineering at Sangoma. I've been involved with FreePBX since about 2009. I was the original author of OSS Endpoint Manager and a few other utilities on the side. I did a lot of open source contributions to FreePBX in my early days, and today I still work on all the open source parts of FreePBX along with my team, and Jason does as well. Here's some bio information about Jason.
Yeah, so I am a senior software engineer at Sangoma. I have been doing Asterisk contributions and development since about 2005. I've been involved officially with FreePBX since about 2012. I've been working with these guys for much, much longer. I do pretty much all things phones with Sangoma.
Right. So what is FreePBX, right? I'm assuming most of you guys probably know what FreePBX is. How many actually use FreePBX or know what it is? Right? Okay, cool. So we're just going to go through this pretty quick here, right? So FreePBX, what is it? Software at a glance. More than a config generator is what we say, right? That's because of our services on the back end. We have daemons running, like queue callback, for example, doesn't just work by a config generator, right? It actually has to have something running on the back end. Same for like Paging Pro, or even UCP has a service that runs on the back end to do real-time conference stats, conference call information like talking and people who are kicked or muted, that kind of thing, right? Modular design, 72 standard open source modules. I counted this last week, 20 commercial modules. It used to be about 30 6 years ago. So we've actually open sourced a bunch of them in the last 6 years. Globally deployed around the world in multiple languages and locales. This is even more so with our acquisition by Sangoma back in 2015. Our global spread has increased, which is great. So FreePBX itself was created in 2004 as AMP. If you guys didn't know that, that's where AMP portal comes from. Stands for Asterisk Management Portal. The web was way different back then, so FreePBX itself has morphed a lot. We're going to go over that real quick and show you how the interface has changed over the years, right? Because back in 2004, 2005, there was no HTML5. You couldn't play back audio in the browser without having Flash. Flash is dead now, right? So, I mean, we're moving at a fast pace these days. There was no such thing as WebRTC. A soft phone on your computer wouldn't be in the browser. It would be a soft phone application on your computer, right? Primarily open source, GPL version 2, 3, and AGPL is what we use. Like I said, modular design allows alternative module licenses, basically anything that's compatible with framework, which is GPL version 2. So I'm going to switch it up, MIT license, right, is compatible. That's an example, right? The install base is about probably 3 million systems in production, we think. I mean, we have some stats and download stats and usability stats and just user base. That's including like elastics in the old days and some tricks boxes that are still out there, right? So that's how we get all those stats together and we kind of figure out that it's about 3 million systems. We have about tens of thousands new installations each month. That registers, like I said, the old stuff and the new stuff that we're doing. Explosive web growth traffic resulting in large multinational community to collaborate with. What we mean by that is over the years we've run into people who use it in Europe or Australia or China, right? And they come to us wanting to change locales, languages, different structures and setups, right? And we've all been able to work with these people over the last 12 years, 15 years here. So, like what do we say? One of the longest running, still active Asterisk GUIs. This is our quick stats from a website called OpenHub. If you guys have never used it, you should check it out. It basically has stats for all open source projects. I just took that from there, so you can see some quick stats about FreePBX, how many commits there are. It gives you 186 years of effort, which means like if you had one person working on this project, it would have taken them 186 years to write it, right? So that's how much effort is actually in this project, right? 682,000 lines of code, 74 current contributors, right? So I believe that's in the last about 6 months to a year is what that counts. Yeah, so development team, full-time development team staffed by Sangoma Technologies. That means that we're the paid developers for the project, right? But the project also has community contributors, right? And there's over 50 community contributors. Sorry, I'm skipping into your slides here.
Fine.
Yeah. So we have over 50 contributed modules, right? These are contributed by the community, and They're supported by the community. Some people still work on them. Some of them are retired. Some of them are new, right? That's on top of the 20 or the 70 standard modules and the 20 commercial modules, right? These are just modules you can go in and check out the source code just like you could our 70 standard modules. And they have all different wide varying purposes, right? Sorry, you can go now.
So FreePBX is made up of a couple of different interfaces. You've got the administration interface, which is where your telco guy, your PBX guy, or maybe not so much a PBX guy, who's going to actually configure the system. They're going to be adding the extensions, setting up the queues, you know, all that various stuff that you can do in FreePBX. You've also got the user interface called UCP. This is the interface that your users, the people who actually have the phones on their desk, are going to be using day to day. I think we talk a little bit more about UCP.
Yeah, we kind of go into it a little bit later.
Yeah. And then you've also got the apps that can run on the phone itself, on the desk phone, that can do some reasonably basic stuff. You can do a little bit of queue monitoring. You can do things like setting do not disturb, enabling follow me, you know, call forwarding, stuff like that. FreePBX supports quite a few Asterisk versions. It supports 11 for a little bit. 11 is going EOL very soon. 13 is going to be supported for quite a while, 2021, so like 4 years. 14 is a non-LTS, so that's not going to be there too long, though we'll probably keep it in FreePBX for a little bit longer than that. And then Asterisk 15, which was just released Tuesday.
Right, and FreePBX 13 and 14 support that.
Yeah,
so you can go switch to it, download it yourself, and just upgrade the framework, and it will run on Asterisk 15.
And if you're on the FreePBX distro, I assume it should already be
sent to it on the Sangoma 7 distro, we call it, our new distro. You can actually run Asterisk version switch and switch into Asterisk 15 instantly, just like you can with 13 and 11 and 14. So a vibrant community, right? These are all, this is from our forums, just to emphasize how many active posts and counts and users and everything we have going on in our forums. That's what we mean by active community. People come here to our community, participate, interact with each other. We try to keep it civil and calm, you know, but what we like about it is somebody will come and ask a question, and usually there's always an answer. Somebody will always reply. And if it's not somebody answering, we try to reply and try to help people, right? So we really love our community, and that's just what we're emphasizing there with how much activity we have on it. So, past FreePBX Evolution, right? So Asterisk was first released in December 1999. This is just some images from online. I mean, the dial plan looks the same. It's hard to actually show an image of Asterisk from that time period because all you're going to see is a version string that comes up, right? FreePBX itself came out in 2005. So about 5 years after the first official release of Asterisk. The first mainstream GUI resulting in an explosive adoption. That's the original AMP portal, right? Then in 2006, it changed from AMP to FreePBX because Asterisk was a trademark. So can't make it seem like it's the same product that maybe they're releasing. So it changed to what you see over there, FreePBX. But you can see that the design is still the same. It's just expanding. There's more on the left side now, and there's more on the top bar there on the right, right? And then in 2007, FreePBX takes the leap from hobby to mainstream. It became bigger and bigger, right? You can see the GUIs changed again at this point. This is around 2.8, 2.7 to 2.8. A lot more modules on the left side, and then some more on the top there, right? Some more links on the top. And then 2012, FreePBX GUI gradually begins to morph, right? Now we move the left side onto the top bar up there, right? And now it's the drop-down menu system that you probably recognize today. This is FreePBX 12. Then 2015, right? Now we move the GUI. We try to use Bootstrap to make it mobile compatible. You can shrink it. It will realign to your mobile device, you know, expand out. It uses a little bit more room, but everything is the same. We tried to be consistent in all the modules. Each one was doing something different before, and the interface was different per module. Now they should all be similar, right? That's what we were going for in this. So all the functionality, yes, no, instead of whatever it was before, like random checkboxes or maybe drop downs, now it's always yes, no type options is what we were trying to go for, right? And then the FreePBX Evolution right here is our last timeline over the last few years. 2.11 was in May 2013. It introduced popovers. 2014, UCP replaces ARI. ARI was the old user panel. We redid that in UCP, right, to try to emphasize and utilize current web technologies. For instance, in ARI before, if you sent a fax or got a fax, it would delay, the whole process would delay, and you'd have to wait for it to finish, and you couldn't do anything else. In UCP, it sends it in the background, right? So that was important for us to do that in terms of all the new current web technologies coming out. Then let's see here, October 2015, the visual upgrade that I showed you guys before, error handling, better error handling, right? We call them the whoops errors. In-browser playback of recordings was important. That was an HTML5 thing. Adding FW console, transitioning out AMP portal was important as well. Firewall. 14, calendar performance, security, redesigned UCP. That's what we're going to go over right now, okay? And Jason's going to go over that.
Yep. So we wanted to do FreePBX 14 right. So it took a bit longer. Typically, we do about a year, sometimes 18 months to do new releases. It's twice as long as the typical. We also had a lot more than we intended to do. We actually intended 14 to be a pretty quick release. But there was a whole lot of stuff. Once we started down the road of adding all of this new stuff, it just kind of ballooned from there. We also upgraded to the Sangoma 7 distro, which is now based on CentOS 7, so we get a whole lot of new features from that. Upgraded PHP we can finally support.
Yeah.
And hopefully in the future, we are going to go back to the short release cycles. Like I said, we were able to modernize FreePBX, the PHP version. There's a whole lot of new stuff in 5.6 that wasn't in 5.3 that we were using on.
Right. So a modern version of PHP 5.6, right? 5.3 was out of date a while ago, end of life a while ago. 5.6 is now in security release right now. It's edging into there, but at least it's actually still supported into security releases for a while, right? Our next step and goal would be PHP 7.
Right.
Right.
So we were able to also upgrade Node.js to an actual release version because we were on like a
0.12, and now we went up to 8.4. Well, it's
Right.
probably going to be 8.6 by next week. So.
Right. We were also able to redesign the UCP. It's on the next slide here. We can show you some of the differences there. We will automatically upgrade a system that is in FreePBX 14. We will check occasionally against our mirror server. And if there is a bug that is going to create a security issue, it'll just automatically download those modules and install them for you. You can also do all of your upgrades of your modules and now the system packages, like the RPMs, through the GUI. And we've also done a whole lot of globalization, and that's everywhere. We'll get to that in a second too. Calendar module, I'm not.
The calendar
Too
module,
sure
we
about
created that so that if you guys are used to time conditions and if you have to deal with like an Easter holiday, every year you have to recreate that Easter holiday because it always lands on a random day. I mean, there's an algorithm behind it, but you can't program that into time conditions, at least the way it was written. So what we did was we actually wanted to start with trying to use Asterisk Res Calendar, which is a module in Asterisk that checks calendars, right, for dial plan functionality. But we needed something more than that because we utilize it in some other software that we have as well. So what we did was we basically kind of wrote a framework around how we wanted to do it. Anything that gets a calendar, we turn into a standard format called iCal, and then we parse that iCal format for the last 30 days and the next 30 days. And that's how we're able to then put it into the dial plan. We check against the calendar locally. So even if you put a Google Calendar, which is supported, Google Outlook, Exchange Web Services, which is technically Outlook as well, CalDAV, and anything that has an ICS, we put in there. You can just put the link in there. The calendar comes in. Then you can go to, let's say, Find Me, Follow Me is a supported option, or time conditions, and you can select that calendar. You can select if you want categories from that calendar, and you can also select, like, if there's an event during this, if there's an event, then do this time condition, right, technically. Or if there's no event, then go this way, right? It's like a destination, but it's destinations for events and calendars, right? They sync automatically. You select the sync time, so it's 15, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and then I think it's like 6 hours, 12 hours, right? So yeah, So that's what calendar
Yeah.
pretty much
So-
is. I think we show a screenshot of it a little bit later. So.
Yeah. Something we could do in the future with that also is, dynamic conferences. If you have a
Right.
scheduled event, we could just create a conference for
Yep,
you. And,
yep.
Yeah. It's a little small.
Yeah, it's hard to see.
We redesigned UCP in what, 12, 11?
Yeah, in 12.
We got rid of the old ARI user interface and went to the UCP you see on the left here. It was a whole lot better, but we wanted to do more with it. And we were a bit limited in the design. Definitely some lessons learned there.
Right, yep.
And in 14, we made it all widgets. So you can have like multiple dashboards, and this is something that a user can see all of these different things all at once. Their CDRs, their call history, they can see all their voicemails, all their recordings, and you can play back from right there from that screen.
Yeah.
The globalization that I was talking about, you can set your language and time zone in one place, and it'll just be used everywhere.
Right, you can set it
throughout.
globally, you can set it per group or per user.
user, yeah.
And the users can change it themselves. This was really important because a lot of users actually brought up the fact that we use American date format, which doesn't make sense in most European countries.
Or here.
Or even here, right? It doesn't make sense here. So you have the ability to change that now. You could have a group that it's your German employees or your even European or non-American employees, and you can change the date format, right?
Yeah.
Or like I said, they can change it themselves. Date time and date time together. They can change the complete formatting of how they want that to look.
And language too, just
And
in general.
and language, yep.
Users who go to the UCP, if they're set to German, they'll just automatically see German.
Right. German time, German date. I mean, like the way that it's set up now is the default time and date strings are locale-based if you don't change them. So if you change the language to German, those strings will already be in the correct German format and everything, right? And then if you want to go change that, you can go override that as well, right?
So if you want to talk about the calendar.
So like I was saying, calendar, right? I kind of basically explained that to you guys earlier. This is pretty much how it looks like when you see a calendar in FreePBX. You can also just add a local calendar, any local calendar you want, right? You can add as many as you want. So you could set up your own date format system in there. You could get it so it's linked to Google Calendar, like I said, and the secretary could like delete the event for when they're open on a holiday or when they're going to be closed or if they have an emergency and they have to close. And then it could it will automatically go to whatever you've defined in time conditions, which uses calendar, right? The old way is still there too. If you like doing it that way, we're not going to remove that. That's the asterisk-based way. But this just provides new functionality and probably easier ways to do holidays, especially in America because like I said, or anywhere else really, there's ICS calendars or iCal calendars everywhere, right? For every country and locale. Right? I downloaded one to do the testing on this that was like American holidays. And every year Google updates that.
Yeah.
So the holidays are already there for me, like Labor Day, Memorial Day, all those kind of things, right? So it's really important. I think it's a really great tool in FreePBX 14.
So looking ahead toward 15, which we are currently working on, one of the really big things that we want to do is we want to create a generalized file system method, some features that we can store files. So right now, a bunch of different modules are storing files in different ways. So like recordings, voicemail, if we want to keep them on the system.
Faxes.
Faxes, right. So it's just going to be files kind of scattered about the system. I mean, it makes sense to us how it's stored, but it's pretty nonsensical. So we want to be able to just shove all of those files in some genericized way, and we can put them wherever we want. Here are a couple of things here that we've got planned. It's going to be open source. The community could add more if they chose to. But the big thing that we want to be able to use that for is backup and restore. So right now, the backup and restore, you kind of have to choose which files you want. We kind of have like groups of items that you can select. You can say, I want my voicemails stored, or I want the recordings stored, or I want this module, its files to be kept. But the new backup system, the modules themselves are going to be able to tell the backup module what it needs to store. And so it'll give you options there. Do you want to store this? Yes, no. And with that backup module, as long as you are on 15 or any higher version, if you back up on any version since 15, you should be able to restore onto any other version 15 or higher.
Right.
So if you back up on 15, you can just easily restore to 17. And the 17 modules are going to know what 15 backed up, and so it can put those back into place. And as part of the package that gets saved, it's going to tell everything where stuff needs to go.
Exactly.
So if you do a backup on 17 and you want to come back to 15, it should mostly work.
Right, exactly. I mean, before it was don't do it, you'll blow up your system, and if you did it, it blew up your system, right? And so we're trying to get away from that, right? Every module also declares what it needs or what it wants or what it needs to back up. Before it was just, do we assume everything in backup? We just back up the MySQL tables. We take the recordings and we just dump it back, right? Even the file directory.
Yeah, and so anytime we needed some new stuff backed up in a new module, we would have to go edit the backup module to tell it about this new stuff, and it's
Yep. The other thing we've got in 15 is an API has long been requested. I mean, I've gotten so many people on the forums just saying that they need an API over the years, right? Which is great, but we just never really had one. So, I mean, this can go on forever. I just found these really quick, right? How many people just needed an API, a REST API, some sort of API to be able to talk to FreePBX, to add extensions, remove extensions, add conferences. I can go on, right? The list goes on forever. So we needed a RESTful-like interface. We've long had REST API, is what the module was called in FreePBX. That was originally commercial, and then we open sourced it last year. But the technology was written 5-6 years ago. It's pretty old and dated, right? So we wanted to try to go with something new. And what we started to look into, right, something new that supports FreePBX's modular design, right? So you have an API that can morph and change as you add and remove modules, right? So what we started to look into was GraphQL, which had some licensing issues originally, and they just resolved all those. So it's a great API to look into. If you guys were in the keynote this morning, he demoed it a little bit. We already have working functionality with this for modules. If I have a little time here, I can probably show you guys. You know, trying to do a live demo could go just as horrible as this morning, right? No offense to him, but yeah. But anyways, what's nice about GraphQL is I just took this basically from how GraphQL describes itself. It's created by Facebook. They've been using it since 2012. No more time spent writing API documentation. If I show you guys, or you saw this morning, it kind of starts describing itself as you go through it, which is really handy, right? And in the future, it's going to continue to grow. We want to try to look into a subscription method where you can subscribe to events and we can send events forward. But right now, this will be our start into an actual REST API that's supported by FreePBX, where you can go off and create anything you want in the system, right? So let me just try to show you guys this really quick since I actually have it up, and then we can probably just go right into questions here. So this is, you can't see this, so let me just switch this really quick. So this is GraphQL, right? And what I can do here, there's an error just because I cleared everything out. So the way we've done this is I can just go extensions, which you guys are probably used to, and I can just expand it out. And I can just do show me the device, and then I'll just do the name. Wait, let's see here. Description, and if I execute this, you can see here's me, here's my wife, and here's this other device I've added, right? But it gets even more powerful because, as you guys know, how things work in FreePBX, I can actually look up the Parking Pro parking lots, right? But what it will show me really quick here is if I do name. So the default lot, if you guys have Park Pro, it's an extension to FreePBX commercial module. But what this is showing is the default lot is assigned to this device, right? Andrew Nagy, just defined to my wife here. I can even go further than this, and I can type out the destination that it goes to by typing dest. And by the way, I'm just typing random characters, so it brings up the help text for me, right? Which you guys can do as well, right? So if I type dest, description, and hit run, I can see that for Andrew Nagy, he has the parking lot, default lot assigned to him, and the default destination of that parking lot is hang up, right? And then I can even go further here, and I can see the ID in FreePBX, which is what it actually calls in FreePBX the go-to context, right? So that's kind of how powerful that is right there. I can even take this away, and I can look at all the parking lots of the system. Name. And there's just default lot, right? But I can actually go further in here. I can see the parking extension starts at 70, right? I can see how long the parking will last for, right? 45 seconds, right? So you can go further than that. I mean, I can even do like device, and I can do ID, and then my extension right here, and then the name. Let's just do ID. Oh, actually, description. And if I run it, then I'm asking for just device 1000, and I can run it with Andrew right here, right? And it's the same thing. It keeps expanding. Everything's linked into each other. That's kind of how GraphQL works. That's why we really like it, because I can go back. And again, like Park Pro is providing this information, right? It's not core. It's not one central module. Each module can link into everything else, right? And I can go back in here, and I can do the name of the parking lot that goes to that device, right? And that's kind of how GraphQL works. That's how we're using it in FreePBX 15. Let me just go back here to this. So anyways, summary. FreePBX today is a major presence in the open source PBX community. It has been for what we would say the last 5 to 10 years or so. Sangoma Technologies is completely behind the project. It backs it with funded developers and other funding as well. Dozens of geographically dispersed and replicated servers. What we mean by that is our mirror servers that distribute the modules. A fully developed ecosystem, certification programs, professional training systems is what Sangoma also provides. And that's pretty much it. You guys have questions? Sorry, I hope you don't mind that I ended it.
So what about?
Brian's can answer that really quick. Shut off Jason's.
So with FreePBX 14 and Sangoma 7, we know we don't have HA. It is something that is actively being worked on with a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from the previous version. So we should actually have a new version at some point. I don't have a date for that yet, but it should incorporate a lot of the feedback that you guys have given us.
Yes, back
So
there.
have you started your own Linux distro in essence? I noticed in the most recent install it stops referring to CentOS.
It's a variant of CentOS.
It is?
Right, yeah. Their terms of service on CentOS, you cannot use that branding if you redistribute the OS. You can't use Red Hat or CentOS. It's a trademark thing, yeah. So what we do is we have to rebrand it as something else. Any other questions? Comments, thoughts? All right, well, thank you guys. You can find us on the show floor here, wherever. Twitter.